First two should be pretty easy. Let's talk about math right now, not baseball and stuff. Okay?
So what are they? I was talking about hockey.
Make sure our phones are away and not distracting us. All right, so when we have common denominators to start with, problems are really easy, right?
Yes.
We just got to make sure when we're done adding or subtracting that we have simplified the fraction as far as we can. So we already have the common denominator, so we know that's x plus 8. And now we just combine like terms. What's 3x plus 2x? 5x. And negative 4 plus 3 is negative 1. Can I factor either of those? No, so it's as far as we can go, simple as we can make it. It also says identify the values of x that are undefined. So what's x not allowed to be? Negative 8. So make sure you put that part. Some of you forgot that when you showed me your finished product on Friday. Okay, so make sure you put that part at the end. 2 is very similar, except it's subtraction. We already have our common denominator. So just pay attention to the details when you're subtracting. What's 1x minus 5x? Negative 4x. What's 5 minus a negative 2? Plus 2, so it's 7, right? Remember, that's addition. So that's where we make a mistake sometimes. Can I factor either numerator or denominator? No. So all I have to do is say what x is not allowed to be, what makes that denominator 0. If you're not sure, remember, just write that denominator equal to 0 and solve it. Okay, you're going to do what first? Subtract 3, then what? Divide by what? 2, so it's negative 3 halves.
Sorry to interrupt, but I have a question.
Go ahead.
So, like this quiz, I missed because I'm not so good, and I was wondering if I could possibly take it tomorrow and my privilege so I don't miss anything.
Yeah.
Carly was not by this morning.
Ooh,
So,
that's not good.
yeah.
When's your privilege?
Second period.
Okay, tomorrow second? All right, we can do that. You're welcome. Any questions on the first two? We understand the negative 3 halves part? Yeah, don't worry about the numerators. It's okay to have 0 in the numerators, right? It's just the denominators we worry about on that part. All right, so number 3, we don't have a common denominator, so we have to figure out what that common denominator is. So if we can factor any denominator, we need to do that so we can figure out what the common denominator would be. So this first denominator is a trinomial that I can factor. So I'm going to factor it into x minus 4 and x plus 3. When I multiply negative 4 times positive 3, I get negative 12. And when I add negative 4 and 3, I get that negative 1 in the middle. Okay? So when we were doing common denominators, if it showed up, what we were supposed to do? No, if it shows up, write it down as the common denominator. So I see an x minus 4 show up, so I write it down. I see an x plus 3, so I write it down. I see an x plus 4. Did I copy that wrong? I did. It should be minus 4. So I see an x minus 4 again. Do I have to write it down again?
No.
No. So that's my common denominator, x minus 4 and x plus 3. So look at the original denominator. Look at my common denominator. Is there anything I did to it? No. So do I do anything to the first numerator? No, it just stays x plus 4. Nothing changes. Okay? Here's the original second denominator. What did I do to it? Multiplied by x plus 3. So I have to multiply the original numerator, the 2x, also by x plus 3. So that's my second fraction rewritten with the common denominator. Any questions so far? Okay, so now, before I can do addition, I have multiplication over here. So I have to do that distributive property stuff. Multiply 2x times x and 2x times 3. My denominator doesn't change. Once I get that common denominator, it stays that until the very end if I can reduce it, right? So combining like terms, there's only a 2x squared, no other x squared. I have a 1x plus 6x, which is 7x. And I've got a 4 plus nothing, so that's 4. Okay? Now I'm supposed to try to factor that numerator to see if I can reduce that fraction. Okay? And if I multiply 2 times 4 and get 8, the a times the c, 1 times 8 or 2 times 4. Will either one of those add up to 7? No. So will I be able to factor it? No. So I'm done adding it and simplifying. I can't make it any simpler. But still, these first 4, I want you to identify what x is not allowed to be. So what's x not allowed to be? Positive 4 or negative 3. So make sure you put all that in your answer tomorrow on the quiz. Okay, Vince? Any questions on number 3? Simple, right? You with me today, William? Well, come on. Let's go. All right, number 4, very similar, except it's subtraction. Can I factor either denominator? Yeah. This first denominator is a difference of squares, right? So, when we do a difference of squares, we take the square root of the x squared, we take the square root of 1, and then we make one addition, one subtraction, remember? So I write down what shows up for my common denominator, which is an x plus 1 and an x minus 1. Don't have to write x plus 1 twice. Okay, looking at the original denominator and looking at the common denominator, is there anything different? Did I do anything to it? No. So I don't do anything to this first numerator, just like the first problem. Okay? What did I do to this one? I multiplied by what? X minus 1. So I have to multiply the 2 also by x minus 1. Okay? So again, I have to distribute that 2 before I do the subtraction. Got to do multiplication always before addition or subtraction when we're simplifying. So that's a 2x minus 2. So what's 1x minus 2x? Negative 1x, right? What's nothing minus a negative 2? Plus 2, all right? So make sure you get that little detail there. I can't simplify anything, I can't factor anything, so that's as simple as we can make that fraction. And what is x not allowed to be? Plus or minus 1, right? So on the first 4, I want you to tell me what x is not allowed to be. You don't have to do that anymore the rest of the quiz. Questions on adding and subtracting these rational expressions, these fractions? not so bad, is it? Shouldn't be. You guys can handle it. All right. Number 5 is that complex fraction. Okay, what we've been doing is multiplying everything by whatever we figure out the common denominator to be. Okay? Now, looking at that bottom problem, that bottom fraction, what happens if I multiply factor out the 2 in that numerator? Got an x minus 1, right? What happens to the x minus 1? Cancel. So I think I might reduce that first. Make it easier on me. All right? So all that I have in the bottom right now is 2. Now, looking at the numerator, what's the common denominator? What shows up? 2 and x, right? I don't have to write the second x because I already wrote the first x, right? So I'm going to multiply everything by 2x here. Okay? What happens to the 2x and that 2x? Cancels. What do you get left? 1. What happens to this x and that 2x? The x's cancel. So what's 2 times 3? 6, right?
Yeah.
So what's 1 plus 6? 7 over 2, right? That's not what I got though. What did I do wrong? Yeah, but when I reduce that, right? That just becomes 2, right? And the x minus 1's go away. So I must have done something wrong when I did it Friday I did it differently Friday using a common denominator for everything. But isn't it easier if you simplify that first fraction, that bottom fraction? Yeah. Factor out the 2. AJ, that's not acceptable.
Sorry.
Okay. So I have to look at why I didn't get that same answer though when I did it the other way. I'll figure it out.
So is the answer wrong?
No, I think what I did right there is right. Right? If I multiply by, oh, no, wait a minute, that's right. The x's cancel, right? So the 2 x's cancel, I get 1. The x's cancel, I get 2 times 3 to get that 6. When I factor the 2 out in the bottom, I just get 2 left. Right? You just get 7 halves. But that's not what I got when I did it a different way. So I'm going to have to redo the other way and see.
Let's try it again.
All right? But I'd say I don't think I did anything wrong there. I copied it right, didn't I? 1 over 2x plus 3 over x, right? 2x minus 2 over x minus 1. If you multiply everything by 2x and x minus 1 is what I did Friday, and I got a little different answer. So I'm going to have to redo that and see why that happened. Okay. But I don't think I'm missing anything what I did today. All right. Number 6. So again, tomorrow if one of those reduces right away, I would reduce it like we did. Make it easier. If you multiplied everything by 2x and x minus 1, it'll still work. Just more work. That's all. So I'm not sure what tomorrow's look like. All right. for number 12, or for number 6, we got 12 over r plus 4 minus 7 over r equals 22 over r squared plus 4r. All right, so first thing to do is factor any denominators that you can factor. The first denominator I can't factor, the second one I can't, but the one on the other side I can. It's got an r, that's the GCF. Okay, so when I factor that r out, I get r times r plus 4. So the way we've been doing these is eliminating the fractions in our first step by multiplying everything by the common denominator. So what's the common denominator? If it shows up, write it down, right? So what shows up?
R plus 4.
Right, r and r plus 4. Okay? So I'm going to multiply that r and r plus 4 times each fraction. So if I go 12 over r plus 4 times r plus 4, what happens to the r plus 4?
You get 12R.
You get 12r, right? So that fraction's gone. If you have negative 7 over r times r plus 4, what cancels?
R.
The r's. So that's negative 7 times r plus 4, no more fraction. Okay? When I multiply 22 over r times r plus 4 times r plus 4,
22.
everything cancels, it's just 22.
Yeah.
Questions? That's why we do that, so we get rid of those fractions. Okay? So distribute the negative 7. You get that. Take the 28 to the other side by adding it. And 12r minus 7r is 5r, combining my terms. And divide by 5. What's r equal? 10. Make sure you check. R 10 plus 4 is 14. 10 is okay when I put it in the bottom, and 100 plus 40, 140. It's okay in the bottom, right? What are we looking for to happen if that's not a good answer? What makes 10 not a good answer? If I would have got 0 in the bottom, right? When I plugged it in to the bottom. That didn't happen, so that's a good answer. We're good with 6? Okay. Number 7. We have one fraction equal to another fraction. So we call that a proportion. How do we solve proportions? Cross multiply. So we go x times x equals negative 4 times x plus 1. Remember, we set them equal. Distribute the 4, or negative 4, sorry. I get that. Since it's got an x squared, it's a quadratic equation. I have to set it equal to 0. So I'm going to add the 4x and the 4 to get it to the left side of the equation. So I got x squared plus 4x plus 4 equals 0. What are the factors of 4 that add up to 4? 2 and 2, right? What's my answer? Negative 2. Is that a good answer? Is negative 2 plus 1 okay? Yeah, is negative 2 in the bottom okay? Yeah. So negative 2 is our answer. You don't have to write it twice. Okay? So when you see a proportion, just cross multiply. You'll have one of those tomorrow, I'm sure. Okay. Number 8. We've got to find a common denominator so that we can can multiply everything by that common denominator to eliminate our fractions. So, can I factor any denominators that are showing? Can't, right? So just write them down. What's the denominator for 3? 1, right? You can put it there if you want. You don't need it though, right? So, the two denominators we see, we're going to write down for the common denominator.
Yeah.
All right? So, again, here's the problems we're doing. We're doing 3 over 1 times x minus 1 over 1. All right? So that's just 3 times x minus 1, right? All right? When I do 18 over x minus 1 times x minus 1 over 1, what happens to the x minus 1? So I get 18x, but it's minus, right? And then when I do negative 12 over x minus 1 over 1, the x's cancel. So I get negative 12 times x minus 1. Any questions on that new equation we just wrote? How we got it? No more fractions. That's the reason we're doing that. Makes it a lot easier now. Distribute the 3x distribute the negative 12, and we got that, right? So again, we have that x squared in there, so we're going to set it equal to 0 because it's a quadratic. So I'm going to add the 12x and subtract the 12. So that it's equal to 0. So I got a 3x squared. Negative 3 and a negative 18 is a negative 21. Plus 12 is a negative 9. And we got the minus 12. Okay, is there a GCF in that trinomial? Yeah, 3, right? So I'm going to take the 3 out. And I get x squared minus 3x minus 4. And that's easy to factor. What are the factors of negative 4 that add up to negative 3? Negative 4 and a positive 1, right? We good? Again, if you get stuck, you can always use the quadratic formula if you don't like the factor. What are my two answers? 4 and negative 1. Let's look at our denominators. Gotta go back to the original. All right. 4 minus 1 is 3, and 4 is 4. That's okay. Negative 1 minus 1 is a negative 2. That's okay. And negative 1. So they're both good. 4 and negative 1. Questions on that one? Okay. Last one. Number 9. So we got 4/7 minus 1 over x equals 6. We're going to put 6 over 1 if you want. So can I factor any of those denominators? So what shows up? 7 and x, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So when I multiply 4/7 times 7x, the 7's cancel, so I just get 4x. When I multiply 1 over x times 7x, the x's cancel. So what's negative 1 times 7? Negative 7. Nothing cancels with the 1, so what's 6 times 7x? 42x. Don't forget that x is still there. I got an x on the left and the right. I'm going to take the one on the left over to the one on the right. and I get -7 equals 38x, and then divide by 38 to get x alone. So there's our answer. And it's okay to have -7/38 as the denominator. So that was a good answer also. So none of our answers were bad answers on the practice. You never know though on the regular quiz. Questions making sense to you? Pretty easy, right?
Yeah.
I think you're ready. I hope so. Quiz tomorrow. Then we'll start some trig on Wednesday. Yeah. That's not what I wanted. Do this.